folks, and welcome to the Ace Tanker for the Sexton II, I suppose. This is another low-tier artillery Ace Tanker, and I do apologize. Please don't unsubscribe. Feel free to hit the dislike button if you want. But it's important, I think it's important to basically give all of these vehicles, I was going to call them tanks, and I'm going to try my best not to call this a tank, because I know some of you out there get upset about it. But I'm old, and I have bad habits, what can I say? But I want to give all the vehicles their moment of fame, you know, their 15 minutes of fame. And the Sexton, even though it's not very highly regarded as an artillery piece in World of Tanks, was actually a very, very successful artillery piece in real life during World War II. And I suppose while I'm on that subject, I might as well begin with the history. You see, at the beginning of World War II, our British didn't have that many artillery pieces, or didn't have that many SPGs, I should say. They did use the 25-pounder, but they ended up having to convert a lot of vehicles to basically turn them into SPGs, and that led to the Lloyd carrier that we mentioned on a video a couple of weeks ago now, being converted in the field to become a makeshift SPG where and when needed. It led to the conversion of the Bishop, which was basically a Valentine that they mounted a 25-pounder on and made it an SPG as the need required. But they were very, very short in SPGs. And in 1942, the Americans were manufacturing so many M7s that they were able to provide the M7, or at that time it was the HMC, the Howitzer Motor Carriage M7, to the British to use as artillery. And the British loved the M7. They thought it was a great tank, and in fact they got them in such large numbers that they gave it its own name. And like most British SPGs, it was given a religious name or an ecclesiastical name, so they renamed it the M7 Priest, and the name stuck. So they loved the M7 Priest. It was fast, it was mobile, it hit hard, and it was quite reliable. It was based on the M3 Lee, but this was 1942, and it was used in North Africa alongside British artillery like the Bishop or like the Lloyd carrier, and the problem was that the British artilleries were using 25-pounders, and the American artillery, or the M7 Priest that the British were now using, was using a 105mm howitzer. So there were logistical problems with ammunition, trying to supply both types of artillery with different types of ammunition. So the British went back to the Americans and they said, listen, we love the M7 Priest, but would it be possible to mount a 25-pounder on the M7 Priest for us, and basically make this exclusive SPG for Britain? Now the Americans, they were busy churning out M7 Priests for themselves, and they said, okay, well we'll give it a go. We're not quite sure whether or not it'll work, but we'll try. But there were major production delays getting the gun, delays getting the ammunition, but they did finally get their hands, or finish building, a prototype of the M7 Priest with a 25-pounder. They gave the prototype the name T51. Which is basically an M7 Priest with a 25-pounder. We don't have it in game. It might be interesting if it was introduced maybe as a premium artillery, but the T51 underwent trials after many delays, and during its trials it basically fell apart. The gun mount broke, the fixtures broke, so it was pretty much a complete disaster. Now that would have led to more and more delays, and the Americans weren't entirely keen on building T51s because they wanted to focus on building M7s. They wanted to focus on what they knew best and was successful, so they didn't really want to start with more prototypes. The British didn't fancy any more delays. They wanted artillery and they wanted them now, so they approached the Canadians, who had just finished building the Ram, or the Ram 2 as we have it in game, which was again a tank that was based on the M3, just like the M7 Priest was. And the British said to the Canadians that, is it possible that you could build us an artillery piece based on the Ram, which is based on the M3 Lee, just like the M7 Priest, but give it a 25-pounder. Now, the Canadians were more receptive to this because the Canadians, obviously being part of the British Commonwealth, would have been using 25-pounders themselves, and they said, sure, we'll give it a go. And literally, just a couple of months later, they had a working prototype called the Sexton, or at least it eventually became known as the Sexton, given another religious name. And this was a tank that was based on the Ram, and had a 25-pounder. And that tank actually does exist in-game as the Tier 3 premium British artillery, the Sexton I. Now, this Sexton I underwent trials and was so successful that basically Canada immediately ordered 125 of the Sexton Is to be built and to be supplied to Canadian troops. And that happened in mid-1942. In early 1943, that particular prototype, the Sexton I, was shipped to Britain for further trials, and once again it passed all its trials with flying colour, and therefore Britain went back to Canada and said, yeah, we would like we'd like more of these, but could you base it on the newer M4 chassis as opposed to the M3 chassis? The M4 seems to be more reliable, and you know, it's available in larger numbers. So Canada said fine, and they rebuilt the Sexton I as a Sexton II based on the M4, and Britain were very happy once again, and they ordered up to 2,000 of those vehicles to be built. So that's the difference between the Sexton I and the Sexton II. The Sexton I was based on the Ram chassis, which is based on the M3, and the Sexton II is based on the M4 chassis, as you can probably see here, the very distinctive M4 frontal plate here, the lower glacis. So they're the major differences between the two tanks. Regardless, the Sexton basically then went into combat in 1943, or it entered combat service in 1943, first in Italy, but then it was involved throughout the rest of the war. It was involved in D-Day, the invasion of Normandy. In fact, the Sextons, just an interesting side fact, the Sextons were on the landing craft going into the beaches on D-Day, and they were actually firing from the landing craft as they approached the beaches, and it was just a very successful design. In fact, it was so successful it remained in service right up till 1956. So this is a very successful SPG as far as the British goes, but as I say, in World of Tanks it's a little bit underwhelming. But what is good about this tank, or we're done with the history now, but what is good about the Sexton is the gun range. What you can see is, well, doesn't really show it here, but the range means I can hit the entire map. So unlike the Lloyd carrier at lower tier 2, unlike a lot of the later British artillery that have shorter firing ranges, the Sexton has a huge firing range. If you're using the top gun on the Sexton, it covers the entire map. In fact, officially its firing range is 1,050 meters, and considering that the biggest maps in World of Tanks are only about 1,000 square meters, then it can cover pretty much the entire map. It also can use AP shells, unlike the Tier 2, and the AP is actually quite good considering this is only a Tier 3. 92 millimeters of penetration, 180 damage, and the regular HE, 44 millimeters of penetration, which is very poor, and 280 alpha damage. So alpha damage not particularly high for a Tier 3, the penetration is absolutely awful for a Tier 3, but it can use AP. The rate of fire is very good, as you would expect from most British artillery. The range of fire is absolutely huge, and it's got a very wide gun arc. You can see that the gun arc here for firing the artillery is very wide. It's not narrow. It means that you can keep your gun on target, not have to move the hull very much. The tank itself is not particularly fast, not particularly mobile. As I say, it's got terrible penetration. The alpha damage is quite low, and compared to the Tier 2 or even the Tier 4 or 5, the shell arc, the shell trajectory is not particularly good, but I find it good enough. I do find it good enough. Anyway, we are here on Runeberg. I'm a Tier 3 in a Tier 4 game, and we're going to go and... oh, tank names are up. Excellent. We're just going to go, as I say. So I'm going to initially pop into the corner at K1. A lot of Tier 4s on the enemy team, and that means that most of the tanks I'm going to be shooting at are Tier 4. And when you're a lower tier, that means more XP and more credits because you're shooting higher tier tanks. So our Lux is who is top tier, and this is dream matchmaking for the Lux, has decided to drive into a position where he can snipe. Because, yeah, okay, low tier games, so much fun. The Lux, I would love to have for him to have gone up the 9-0 lines, but as is, first target is spotted here. It's a Panzer IIIe, and you can see that the aim time is quite poor. Even though the rate of fire is good, the aim time is quite poor, but we're swinging around. Aim. The Lago gets into cover. Yeah, so if I was in other British artillery, Oh, that was a blind shot that hit someone. But if I was in other British artillery, I'd be able to loop shots over buildings. And even though the Sexton, the gun arc is not terrible, it's not good compared to other British artillery. So I've realised now that I've got to relocate in order to hit that corner where the two Lagos are. So we've swung around, we're going to be able to go to work here, and that's essentially all I'm going to be doing. Most of the enemy team seem to have gone into town, judging from the mini-map and the tanks that were spotted already, so we're just aiming forever. So the rate of fire, very good. The range of fire, very good. The gun arc, very good. But the aim time is bloody awful. So, you know, we don't do a heck of a lot of damage. And 89 damage that time. And these are lightly armored tanks. I'm failing to pen them. So you can just see how bad the penetration is. So basically we're being an annoying little mosquito here. But as I said on previous low-tier Ace Tanker Arty replays, just moving a meter will cause Arty to miss by a country mile, and that's what happened there. But we do manage to land a shot into the what was that? That was a Type 59 or Type 91. Managed to penetrate. Doesn't happen very often. You can see I'm going for lighter skin targets. That was a little bit fortunate. The shot fell short, but because the SAV was moving forward, we were able to get a shot in. But SAV has no armor, and yet we did very, very little damage to him. So we're up to 535 official damage here. As I say, one of my blind shots did go in, and I decide I'm going to go for the Type 91 and just finish him off. Take a risk, fire before being fully aimed, but able to do it. And our team have completely collapsed on the other flank. You'll notice that the enemy Lux is doing what light tanks should have done and gone up the 9-0 lines, and he's wiped out the tanks up in the crossroads. So basically there is Arty between myself and that Lux coming down from the other side, but we're still working here. I'm keeping an eye on the mini-map, and I've just seen the Lux go down, or the Lux kill one of our friendly Artys. Still an SU-5 there, but I decide to go for the Lago and get a shot before he can get into Arty cover. He gets taken out, but a little bit of track damage, and I'm wondering, do I hang around for one more shot? Should I hang around for one more shot? This is a mistake by me, because now I've got shots up on E2. But I decide to hang around. I misjudged the shot. The Lux is putting the SU-5 under pressure, and really in hindsight, looking back at this replay, maybe I should have gone, maybe tried to help the SU-5 with long distance shots, or certainly I should have been swinging my gun around and getting shots up on definite targets rather than waiting for a shot on the other SAV. So yeah, our team have kind of collapsed, and there you go. Very, very little splash damage from the 25-pounder. Lux takes out our SU-5, and now things are looking very bad. And now our Lux finally decides to come out of hiding while he's completely surrounded, caught in a crossfire, and I've got absolutely no shots here. So I'm going shotgun mode. Lux goes down. Okay, so it's 1 versus 5. I'm going shotgun mode. And yeah, we're just going to see if we can shoot anyone in the face, but this happens. Yeah, so apparently I was spotted. Again, very, very poor crew in this. Put a new crew into my low-tier British tanker, or British artillery. But yeah, no crew, no sixth sense. Got spotted, didn't know I was spotted, and the enemy Arty was able to take me out with a very good shot while I was on the move. So well done to him. But anyway, that was the first ace in the tank. We also picked up high caliber, which gave me an heroic medal, which meant I actually was able to pick up the ace. We finished up with over 1,000 damage, 1,056 damage, not too bad. And low tier games, you gotta love them, gotta love them. 3 kills and 424 XP, but because of that heroic medal, we actually ended up with 680. It would have been 680 XP was enough to ace the Sexton. I was using a premium consumable, so I did make a loss on that particular game. Wasn't my first game of the day. I actually was grinding through it. This was my second last game in the Sexton II. It took me 4 games to get through the grind. In fact, the game after this was also another ace, but I don't think I'm going to be recording it and bringing it to you because I think you've suffered long enough. 13 shots fired, 9 hits, 9 penetrations, so I don't think very many of those were penetrations, but regardless, it says they were. Happy with the damage, 6 destroyed, 6 damage, 3 destroyed, 89 assistance damage, which isn't a lot, and as I say, we made a loss, but there we go. Sexton II, it's done, it's dusted, highly, highly successful SPG for the British during World War II, although from World of Tanks you wouldn't know it. Anyway, thank you guys for watching. I'll see you next time.